All right, I think we're live. We're live on my page, so that's good. So let me hide this app because I'm like really confused about where to look. Because I have like so many things. Hide this window. You will like this. So being as you are a fellow, I'm putting it all the way down there. All right, and now I'm looking at you. No, this is gonna help me. So you will like this. So like um, my thing with that app is I go live in the app. So basically, like I jump into the app, I go live, it streams to the page, the AdWords Nerds Facebook page, automatically makes a recording, puts the recording in a Dropbox folder, and then I have a Zapier automation that detects whenever a video goes into the folder, sends it to Rev to gets a transcript, and then adds the video and the transcript to a Google Sheet, which I can then send to a freelancer and I'm like turn these into 2 or 3 blog posts and emails. And then I run paid traffic to the recorded version on the page because you can only do paid traffic on a Facebook Live if it's in a page, not if it's a group. So then I share the live in the group, so I get in the group, but then I can also drive paid traffic to it later. Anyway, how are you, Dan? What's up? That's what I did like for 2 weeks instead of anything that's my actual my actual business. Yeah. Yeah, I set it up with the freelancer, so I'm like, come in here every week and just check if there's anything new in the spreadsheet. And then there's a separate tab for them where I'm like, post it on the site, then add it to the tab. So it's like I have a tab I can check to see what they've done. They have a tab. So then for me, it's like good because I like going live and I like doing live video, but I don't love writing blog posts or emails or that's not like the part that I like. So it allows me to be a little bit more off the cuff and fun and stuff like that. But it is broadcasting. I'm not recording yet though. So we're going live right now. So people on the AdWords Nerds page will see this live, and then I'll share it into the group after the fact. Because for some reason I can't go live into the group. I don't know why. Yeah, what's up, guys? Here, so I'm gonna hit record. We'll jump into the podcast thing, and like I don't do much of an intro because I'll record it separately, and then we'll just jump in and we'll just keep it loosey goosey. Does that make sense? All right, let me put this thing on mute, and we will do it to it. All right, record on this computer. All right, everybody. Dan Barrett here, as always, and I'm here with Daniel Schwartz from now. Okay, so when you like introduce yourself, do you say like I am Dan Schwartz from Investor Fuse? Like, how do you like when you meet people at parties? How do you introduce yourself and what you do? Because I think this would be like, yeah, Daniel of Schwartz. You may have heard of me, Baron Schwartz. Yeah, I like like Dan Schwartz. Oh, of the New York Schwartzes. I see how it is. That's cool. Well, so for people who don't know who you are, because like I know who you are, and I think we have a long history together, but I'm not sure how much of the audience knows who you are. So like, give me the elevator pitch version of like who Dan Schwartz is. That's true. You were my first ever real estate investor client. I didn't even know who real estate investors were before I met you. And so you are in my head the platonic ideal real estate investor. I'm like, all real estate investors are young, they all play in bands, they all travel around the world. No, it didn't end up being that way. None of that ended up being true. But yeah, well, so yeah, your background's in wholesaling. Right. Yeah, it was an Elance. It was still Elance because I was just testing doing PPC for clients. I was doing like web design and SEO and stuff. and just like maybe I'll try something that actually makes people money more quickly. That sounds like fun. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah, I mean, it was so early, and I think it was an interesting time too because there were not, one of the things that was exciting to me about it was when I went out to look at for other people doing it, there weren't really anybody. I mean, there was like Sean Terry was talking about AdWords, but very few people were really on that bandwagon even then, right? It's not that long ago. It seems weird now, but so I was like really excited about the opportunity to do something new. And I specifically remember us having a conversation and I was like, okay, so like tell me what a real estate investor does. And you're like, well, I buy homes and then I can turn around and like sell them for more than I bought them for. And I was like, wow, you must be loaded. You must have a ton of money on hand to buy multiple homes at once. And you're like, oh, I don't use any of my own money. And I was like, what the F is this dude talking about? Like I think on the phone I was like, and in my head I was like, what does that even mean? I don't understand any part of what that means. It was a deep dive pretty early, which was pretty. Well, that's very true. There's a very sharp 80/20, or Perry Marshall would say it's a 99/1 distribution of real estate investors, right? For sure. And so when did you kind of make the transition? Because you made a transition at some point away from kind of being a full-time wholesaler. You were always the kind of person that had a ton of systems in place. You really worked out that process, but you transitioned out of that into the kind of back end world of things. So like what made that happen? Like what was the impetus behind that? Hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't realize that. That's interesting. So let's take a step back for a second. So like you, I think this would be. I think it still is mind blowing to people to think that at this time like you were a successful wholesaler, you're doing deals, right? But you're also like you're out, like you said, you're touring. You. My impression of you is we're very similar in the sense that like you're not the guy who's like, I'm just going to grind it out 24 hours a day, like hustle, 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 right? So, what was the process for you to like even getting to that point? Like, what helped you to develop that and figure that out in the beginning? Was it just like you had to because you knew you wanted to play music at the same time, and you didn't have any other choice? Was it that you had to you had to learn that the hard way? Like, what got you there? Yeah, which I've still never read, by the way. It's like when people are like Citizen Kane's the best movie of all time, and you're like sure, and you just haven't seen it, and you're like now I'm never gonna see this. Like this is just my personality. Like I don't know why. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yes. Hmm. Yeah, I'm the same way, dude. I always say like I'm like a low energy entrepreneur where I'm like I barely get out of bed every single day, like it's a struggle. So I'm like I better have something in place, you know what I mean? And ironically, you end up getting sucked into it and spending like more time. For me, I'm like I'll spend 3 hours automating a thing that would have taken me 5 minutes, but I'm like I just don't. I don't want to deal with it anymore. So okay, so you're like getting into systems, you build out systems for your own business. You realize there's nothing there for investors, right? So you jump into Podio and like, what was the plan always to make something for other investors to use? Were you just like, I need a better thing for my own use? Right. 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 Yeah. Well, that's the perfect example, right? Of like, man, you really validate your business idea when it wasn't even a business idea. It just people were like, I need to pay you to do the thing, right? And that's so cool, man. So we've talked about this before, but there's like a very special feeling when you're like, oh, I set up a system to do something really cool. And it just, you start to see it work and those pieces click into place. And it's like, man, that's so fun. So like so that system that you were building that became Investor Fuse, right? So like when did this become like an actual business? Because you guys are like you guys have been, I mean, from the outside at least, it seems like you guys have been growing a ton. More and more people, like on our side, like people that we work with, use you guys or know who you are, and like you've kind of made a real brand in that space with this idea of automating the back end. And I want to dig into a lot of like the specifics of that, but like when did that finally crystallize and become like a real business? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Mhm. Right. Yeah. So for your, and I definitely want to come back to jumping off Podio because I know this happened really recently for you guys, and that's a huge. I mean, for people that are non-technical, like that might they might be like, "Oh, that's cool," but like this is a huge. It's a huge thing. Like it blew my mind that you guys did this because there is a whole world of stuff in software development and all that stuff. So I definitely want to come back to that. So, but the thing that you said that I really love is like it's like all about figuring out what people really want, right? So for you, like when you looked at investors and you look at the way that people use Investor Fuse now, right? What are the things that Investor Fuse does that are those things that are like highest leverage, highest impact, those things that like really make a difference? The things that really kind of really improve those investors' businesses. Yes, please. Anytime someone wants to share either a cheat sheet or a chart all at once, I'm into it. That's right up my alley. Yes, yeah. So if you guys are listening to the podcast here, he's showing this on the screen. We've got the Investor Fuse 80/20 task cheat sheet. If they Google this, can they find it? Okay, beautiful. All right. So like everybody, if you're listening to the podcast and want to see what Dan's talking about, this is really pretty awesome. So like just go you can go to adwordsnerds.com/podcast to find this episode. I'll put the link up for it. So explain to this what it is. So it says real estate investor 80/20 task cheat sheet. Mm. Mm. You don't really need any special knowledge to do any of that stuff. You can be taught that in 10 minutes and just get it done. Mm. Well, because not only are you able to get those tasks done more consistently, right? Because it's someone is that's their job, that's what they're doing to get it done, or the system gets it done every time, right? But then you have mental bandwidth left over so that if you are doing $1,000 per hour task or a $10,000 per hour task, you're much more present, you're much more conscious, you're better at actually getting it done. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. 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 So let me ask you. So one of the biggest things that I've noticed, right, working with, hundreds of investors at this point, right, is that um, the difference in success levels between investors that have a very consistent and systematic follow up process and investors who mostly handle it as it comes. It's just night and day, right? Like I can give two investors the exact same leads at the exact same time, and one investor will turn that into deals all day, and one investor will just really struggle. And what I'll typically hear from people is that, if they're struggling, they're having trouble getting the leads on the phone, they're having trouble getting a response. And I'm always like, well, what does your follow up system look like, right? Like, how often are you reaching out? How many channels are you reaching out on? What does that reach out look like? What's your system? What's your numbers? And usually people are struggling, they don't know that because they don't have a system. And so they can't manage that system, you know? So follow up's like a huge area of inquiry for me. It's something that I'm not great at because it's not, I'm not an investor. I've never had to do that, right? But you guys are kind of like you're in this really amazing spot where you can look at in a systematic way like, what works for investors in this position? What actually changes the outcome when you slot it into the system, right? So for you guys specifically on follow up, what are some tips or pointers you would give investors to this whole kind of 80/20 idea of what are the things they can change that are going to have the highest leverage for them in terms of turning their marketing spend into deals? You have a downloadable for literally everything, which I also friggin' love. uh okay, so what is this? And this could they can Google this one or no? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And I have seen this in practice so many times. And in fact, you and I are both big Perry Marshall fans, I think, right? You're a Perry Marshall fan. Yeah. So, oh, really? It's like 20% of the shirt covers 80% of your body and the rest is like just not there or something. Yeah, he's like, he's a really interesting dude. And so I saw him recently. I went to like a seminar he did in Connecticut, and he was talking about not about real estate, but he was talking about like the time value of leads and how the time value of leads is an 80-20 curve. And it's like, so it's like the moment that a lead opts in, that lead is at 100% value. And he's like, 2 minutes from then, it's not at like 90% value, it's at like 50% value. And then like 30 minutes from then, it's at like 1% of the value of the lead, right? And you just realize it's like, I've talked to so many people who are like, they're like, well, Dan, whatever, I like you, but these leads aren't any good. And I'm like, wow, like I'm really just terrible. Like I get very personally upset because, people pay me money to get a certain result. And I always want to like, we do a post mortem on every client. to figure out if it didn't go well. Like I want to know why it didn't go well and I want to get better, right? And so many times I've got, they're like saying the leads aren't any good. I'm like, oh my God, so what do they say when you follow up? And they're like, well, when I followed up a day later. And I'm like, yeah, like the value of the lead is essentially zero. I mean, it's not zero because you can get that person long term, but you are losing a huge amount of the value in that, like you said, 5 minutes before you follow up. So like when you're working with clients, is the best thing to do to put up, just hire a person, put them in your office, put them on the phone? Do you guys do that online, like as part of like a form? Like what's the best way to qualify leads? Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Ah, okay. Right. Yep. Yep. Yeah. 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 I think that's so huge because I think so many people think, well, this person filled out my form or whatever they did, right? And I called them and I left a message and they didn't call me back. So they're not motivated, right? That's like the jump. It's like they're not motivated. They're not a seller. And I'm like, like my mom leaves me voicemails and I don't call her back and I love my mom. You know what I mean? Like the onus is on you as the investor to do that follow up. And I think that it's so huge, but people don't think about it that way. Mm. So break that down a little bit. Like, what do you mean by that? Hmm. I mean, that's so huge, man. Because even with AdWords nerds, like, so obviously we're not investors, but we use backend systems to manage our own clients. And it's very easy to, if you don't set that next step, someone's kind of in the system, but at that point, they're kind of invisible, right? No one sees, you need some kind of process for making sure those people don't get lost. I think that's completely huge. So you mentioned this. So talk about, so you guys made the decision, right, because of, I'm assuming, some of the limitations of Podio to essentially build your own thing. So can you talk about that a little bit? Like, why did you make that decision? And then what did you guys end up turning Investor Fuse into? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And then people, I'm sure, would come to you and say, what's up, Investor Fuse? What did you guys do? And you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it does. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Do you know what the word is? Hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 Hmm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. 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 I think there's a huge opportunity to actually look at that stuff at scale, right? Like it's one of the things I always say, like, it's very hard to find large companies that deal with the number of data points that we have. There are a few, but like mostly it's like there are individuals, and individuals both don't really share their data with the community, right? Because they've got their own thing. I don't expect anyone to share their secret sauce with everyone else. And then two, just the fact that it works for you doesn't mean it works for everyone, right? People in different housing markets, whatever. You got somebody with supernatural level of charisma like us, who knows, is unreal. And, that skews the numbers, right? But it's like when you start to look at lots of people over time, that's when you start to see those trends. And yeah, I just want to use that as much as possible and do cool stuff with it. I also want to say, too, the thing that's so interesting to me about what you guys are doing, and I think the thing that makes you really unique in that space is you are trying to simplify it down, right? Like I think the way that most companies think about CRMs or backend systems or whatever, it's like just throw more stuff at it. Like we use the CRM for our agency and I kind of hate it. And it's like it's like everything, right? It's like they want to do everything. There's everything in there. It does everything. And in reality, because you know who your clients are, you can make just the stuff that matters and put it right up front. So they don't have to worry about, just like you said, like handcrafting Podio into some, shape it was never meant to be in, right? It can just be simple from the beginning. And I think it's much harder to do than people think it is. Yeah. Oh, I can hear you. Oh, probably not. So the Facebook Live didn't work, but I'm recording this, so I'll put up the recording for people to hear it after. Um, it how's the podcast going? It's been interesting, man. It's been good. I like doing it, and it's not got a huge listenership, but one of the things that I've noticed, just to kind of like pull back the curtains on, like if anyone's ever curious about like what marketing AdWords nerds is like, the thing that we really notice is like people that listen to the podcast, they close at like two or three times the percentage of everyone else, right? So it's like for me, it's you know when you get to a certain point in the investing space, it's very hard to just keep spending more money on ads or it's like it just we kind of spend all we can really spend and still have decent targeting. And so for me, it's more about going deeper. So like, with the REI Marketing Nerds Facebook group or doing the podcast, it's just like you said, it's like it's essentially a form of following up with people, just staying in touch with them, like continuously providing value. And like now when people come to us, it's no longer like I show you an ad and we try to get you on the phone and then I have to convince you to hire us. Like when people get on the phone, they've been like, I've been in your group for a year. I've been listening to your podcast. I've been saving up money to hire you. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's like a much better situation for us to be in. Cause we really try not to ever convince anybody of anything. It's like, you're either right to work with us and it's awesome or it isn't. Um, so I think it's been really good that way. But I think if you look at it traditionally, like, I don't have like the top podcast in the world, but I like doing it. So it's fun enough. And the effect has definitely been positive for sure. Hmm. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting, man. I dig it. And I just like talking better than I like writing, but like I find it much easier to do this than I do like write like long form copy or something. So for me it's just much more interesting. Yeah, yeah, we'll see if I get up to 10. I don't know if I'm at 10K an hour yet. My quality is going to be higher than that, but it's been interesting. Like I had someone someone who's like a client, like be like, oh, I listen to your podcast, and I totally disagree with you, and like XYZ, and we got into like a deep conversation about it, right? And I was like, that's awesome. Like I wouldn't have had that conversation. I wouldn't have known that guy's thoughts. Um, so it just it allows me to talk to a lot of people at scale, which is what it's always about. Except for the people watching this on Facebook Live, who are they're basically just hearing me talk and then pause for a long time and go like this, which I like. Um, yeah, sorry, people, technical problems. Yeah, yeah, wow. So if you guys want to start up a GoFundMe to help Jeff Bezos pay his bills, the address is. Yeah, that's ridiculous, man. That's completely ridiculous. I want to know. So, and we don't. I won't keep you forever because I know you're busy and we got stuff to do. But I want to know. So, we're both big fans of this whole 80/20 thing. You and I will geek out a lot about lifestyle design and trying to really handcraft our lives. And I think you're a really good example of that. Actually, Joe McCall is a great example of that. Because I did work with Joe McCall, and I was working harder than he was. He was like in Europe with his family, just doing whatever, and I'm I'm like busting my butt on his AdWords campaigns, and he has systems. So I want to know, like, how have you thought through that whole kind of 80/20 lifestyle design thing? How do you think through that in your personal life? Like, how do you use that outside your business to kind of drive how you spend the rest of your time, or even make your long term business decisions? I guess. Mm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Right. But I learned nothing, is what I want to say. Well, so I'm curious. So, like, do you have a really clear? So, I know you said like you don't have a lot of structure in your life, which is interesting to me because I don't. I tend to try to build structure into my life, and then I just don't do it, and then I feel guilty about it. You know what I mean? So, I'm curious. Like, do you have a real clear sense of like if I was going to say to you like Dan, like what are your like priorities in life? Do you have a clear sense of like okay, like here's how things rank to me, and I'm going to prioritize the things that are most important over things that aren't? Is that kind of like the guiding principle you use to make those decisions? Mm, yeah, yeah, Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, I tell you what, uh, you could always just have kids and then it ruins all that other stuff for you. And yeah. You're like, so I adopted three kids. I'm just going to see how it goes. And I don't know. I'll get rid of them if I don't like it. Well, that's a nice, it's a nice limitation to have because it's, you can get over it if you need to, but it's a being that relies on you. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting, man. I think we're both we both have a lot of personality traits that are pretty similar, and it's a real fine balance because like I need routine in my life, but I also rebel against it if you give me too much, right? So it's kind of like structure, but not too structured. So it'll be interesting. Well, let me get because you're obviously a very thoughtful guy. What's something you've read or someone you listened to or gotten into lately that's had kind of an impact on you? Because I've kind of seen a little bit of the evolution of the way you kind of think of this stuff over time, and you've made a lot of done a lot of experimentation, made a lot of changes. So what's something recently for you that's had an impact on you, positive, negative, or both? Yeah. Yep. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's great. I'm so glad you said that, man, because we literally January we roll out Cape OKRs to our team. It's really fascinating. I read the same book and really loved it. I've been messing around with them for just my personal life. Um, it's- yeah, it's interesting. It's I like it a lot. I think it works best with teams. I mean, I think for me personally, like I had like an OKR board for like my all the stuff I was working on, and it was again it was like a little too much structure, right? So I took pieces of it that I kept, but for the team, I think it's incredible because it's just like you said. There's a clear goal that everyone can pull towards, and for me, the biggest thing was being able, even for me, like not even for the team, but for me, I have so many ideas to be able to be like, which of these affects my objective, right? It's like, because otherwise I'll be like, I'll do this and I'll do this and do this. And they're all kind of spread out. And it's like, no, it's like, it's a forces you to focus on stuff that has the impact that you want. So yeah, let me know, man. I'm very curious how it goes for you guys. Yeah, I'm very interested. We just grew. We're a team of nine now, and it's like, I know you know this, but it's like you start to manage a team, and it gets beyond like four people, and it's like, oh, all of a sudden, like it's a very different experience, like working with all these different people and keeping everyone on the same task, and it can be challenging, but I don't think it has to be complicated. I think it can be pretty simple. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Well, so that's a amazing way to end it. So if people want to follow you online and they want to learn more about Investor Fuse, like how should they find you? How should they reach out to you? Cool, man. Yeah, and if you guys are listening to this, you're an investor. I highly recommend that you check out Investor Fuse. It's a really incredible piece of work, and there is a. I mean, we didn't even scratch the surface of all the weird stuff that it does. I mean, at this point, I feel like it can come to your house and like massage your shoulders if you feel stressed out. It's pretty rad. Uh, oh, it's coming up. All right, it's coming up, man. I'm so excited for that. So like beta. So like if someone is they want to get in on the beta, should they just go and like drop their email somewhere? Are you going to notify people? All right. So if you guys are listening to this and you're curious, which I recommend that you be curious, drop them an email, let them know. Dan, thank you so much, man. It's an absolute pleasure to have you, and you're in my opinion one of the most fascinating people in real estate today. So I really appreciate you coming on and being my silent partner on this Facebook Live, apparently. But no, people on the podcast will definitely hear you, and you don't have to apologize because it's definitely my fault, not yours. But yeah, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We should. It's at 2 p.m., so it's 15 minutes from now. But I don't have a beer. I don't have a beer on me today. I'm gonna try to like. That's like my New Year's resolution is bring a beer on my weekly show because I used to do that every week, and then I got to the point where I was like, I can't drink like even like a fifth of a beer in the middle of the day. I just lose it. You know what I mean? It's not good for me. So, we'll see. I'll work much harder on that for you. All right, man. Have a great rest of your day, Dan. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers, buddy. All right, we stopped the recording. Sorry, everyone on this Facebook Live. It's fine. You'll get it. I'm gonna finish the Facebook Live.